Hi, hello, and welcome to The Far Side. I am your host. My name is Austin. High Priest, if you will. Welcome back. I know it's been a up-jump minute or two since the last episode. What can I say? Good help is difficult. Now, that all said, have you guys been paying attention to this whole fatal charade thing that I talked about last time? I know only like 3 or 4 of you actually made it through that whole video enough to, give me the deets. But I'm just going to sit back for a second and let you think. Anything else that I have noticed that might just be a fatal charade? A morality play for the rest of us to look at and go, that is real, that is life, when in fact an orchestration of events is happening behind the scenes to distract us, to siphon our attentions away from things that might be truly bothering us on a deep psychological subconscious level. And what do? We ignore it because Netflix has hot killers again. Yes, it do. Yes, it does. Hot killers? What do you need? The yassification of the killer? You need a killer that is part of that rainbow flag community to tell a story about the rainbow flag community? First things first, that does not help your overall cause. I must say. I just have to say it. Someone's got to say it. Someone's got to say it. Someone's got to say that the whole, Ed Gein trans killer thing, qu'est-ce que c'est? What? Huh? First off, why are we making the killers hot? See, here's the thing. If you want to fetishize killers in this, say, romantasy way that often is done, and let me explain this for the nerds in the audience. Ring, 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 ring. Hello? Yeah. No, I'm not explaining it well. Of course I'm not giving them the actual details. No, I don't want them deeply, deeply rooting in their subconscious murder and sex together. I'm totally not doing that. No, they're not. No, what? No, this isn't going on air. What are you talking about? No. Yes, no. Yes, no. Okay, yeah. Because they're dumb. Because even if I'm telling them, they're not going to pay attention. Because, yeah, the cell phone program. Yeah. Everyone keeps calling it Project Bluebeam, when really it's about blue light being projected from your phone and causing some sort of hypnotic situation for you in your everyday life so that you are too overwhelmed and too kind of biologically stressed on a deep subconscious level that your animal self is fully aware of, fully knows. No, I'm not letting them know that. No, I'm not telling them that. No. It's just Project Bluebeams. It's about aliens. It's always been about aliens. What? No, it's not real life. It's not people here on Earth that might have a lot of money, say the wealthy lines of aristocratic families of Europe. Yeah, no, they still are anti-Semitic. They're still very much talking about all the anti-Semitism. Yes. They think it's all the Jews. Yeah. No. I'm not getting kirked. I am not getting kirked. Yes, they think it's the Jews. Yeah, most online conspiracy spaces right now are populated with a lot of anti-Semitism, as you've asked. Yeah, no, I'm not telling them about European aristocratic families and the power that they had kept, and as well as, say, maybe many other wealthy aristocratic families in many countries. Yeah, they're the ones trying to run the show, and they're the ones that benefit the most from the anti-Semitism. Yes. No. Okay. Mom, I gotta go. Mom, please. Mom, let me go. No, we're not. Yes. Okay. No. Bye. Mother had to talk. Mother needed to speak. Mother. Ed Gein, big fan of his mother. Ed Gein, very much I would assume, schizophrenic killer, based on his portrayal. So there is this idea of a thing called the romanticy effect, or the romance effect, where a protagonist or love interest in a book or movie, TV show, some work of fiction usually, is essentially a dangerous predator. Is someone at the door?
Of course, no one was at the door. Just the doggies making doggy sleep noises. Sleep noises that I love them so much for, but when you're at an office park and you're waiting for tradies and people of the blue-collar persuasion, walking out to greet them in a cloak is embarrassing. Let's face it, they all know that I'm a goofball of sorts. Well, okay, so protagonist is essentially a dangerous predator in a lot of these romance fiction, fantasy, historical novels, whatever, that it is this vampire monster, say like the Twilight series, or say in this, like an Ed Gein type, where he is truly monstrous, but yet to this one woman that he really bears all himself to in so many ways, accepts him, and her feminine grace, wiles, whimsy, whatever, is able to tame or somehow subdue this wild maniac creature, this wild beast. Or has been seen in this most recent fantasy, The Milking Farm, that is about a woman who milks minotaurs for their semen, to pay off her college debt. Yeah, but it's a giant minotaur, and it's not a human-looking minotaur either. It is a very animalistic minotaur. It's got a bull face. It looks like something out of, like, an ancient Greek fresco, and it's not at all pleasant, but it's part of the fantasy. And now here's the thing. Whether it be like this Ed Gein or, and here's another important thing. These female characters, these protagonists in these romantasy books, are usually some sort of cardboard cutout of a person so that the reader can put themselves in the shoes. And part of this is the power fantasy of, I think, being a, say, normal person, not a superhero, not a crazy monster hero power thing, and then you get to be brought up and put in this world of gods and monsters and villains and demons, and you, just by grace of you being you, which is, I mean, Marvel has been really running with that one. Hey, do you want to work hard for these superpowers that you've got and really want to be the superhero that can ever super about it? You don't want that. You Mother? No. Mother, stop it. You just want to believe in yourself, and that you just have to believe in yourself, and that believing in yourself will activate your superpowers, and that by activating your superpowers, you can deal with the demons and the vicious nightmares and the monsters. Well, let me tell you a thing. That doesn't resonate with people. That's why Marvel lost a lot of money. And frankly, that's why a lot of people, at least that I have spoken to and looking at online forums and things, a lot of people were just simply weirded out by this whole show. First off, and this is a big Hollywood problem, the bait and switch, because you, producer, you, writer, you, director, because you were unable to create a story about the thing that you really want to talk about. So you have to push some other thing through, whether that thing be The Witcher or any fantasy series or show that's been released recently, sci-fi included. It's just a lot of baits and switches, and that's what bothers people. You are led into the Ed Gein story going, yeah, this might be weird. There might be some odd, like, horror erotica stuff going on, which I think the whole horror erotica thing is a psyop. I don't have anything to prove it. I don't think it was started as a psyop, but I think something was found in the psychology of people, and they realized, oh, having a mixture of horror feelings and sexy time feelings is like a drug to people, like an ambrosia. Like, it makes them forget. It's an amnesiac, and it's alchemized. And So you take this creature thing, Ed Gein, that must be a monster, that must be evil, that must be terrifying, and filled with too much inherent instability to be anything other than a fantasy. Yet, because you, whoever you are, and it might be theys, it might be many yous, you wanted to tell a story about a transgendered person's coming to terms with who they are. That could be a very interesting story. The way it is shoehorned into the Ed Gein thing is very disingenuous for a couple things. Like, one, it basically means that when you go watch it, you're watching two different TV shows. You're watching one TV show that is the Ed Gein true crime, follow the killer, let's see if he gets caught, and why does he do this? Why is he this crazy monster? Well, it turns out he had a very weird, strange sexual tension upbringing with his mother, who refused to let him express any sexual desires, but also it sounds like the guy might have been a prototypical autist. Like, or the prototype, before anything was all tism and tusm and tism and tusm. And here we are now arguing about who really likes trains. If you like trains, are you autistic? Is that a diagnostic criterion? No, it's not. People can like trains and not be autistic. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk? So here's the thing. This fantasy that was portrayed, it usually is a kind of woman's fantasy about this. But when you watch the Ed Gein, halfway through, you're like, oh, this is a man's fantasy about being a woman and how he becomes a woman. And it's like, okay, I'm kind of in this. I'm kind of onto it. Like, it's so weird and off the wall. I'm willing to see where it goes. That's the thing. At this point, I think so many people, if you present us as audience members, especially those of us who are willing to put our phones down for a little bit and pay attention to what you are presenting upon the screen, we will tune in and keep tuning in if it is novel, if it is somehow interesting. Now, the Ed Gein monster thing, there are many points that it is interesting because it is novel. Not because it is good, but because they're doing something novel. Well, when you start getting into him having this thing where he goes and gives every one of his heroes a CB radio, and he talks to them, or a ham radio or something like that, and talks to them. Spoilers. That's just weird. It's a complete tonal shift away from the true crime thing over into some weird fantasy land and like coming of age, where it has all these tropes of like a teenage girl's discovery story, yet it's about a man that's already murdered a couple people and like made furniture out of their skin, and it's him dancing all like provocatively in lingerie half the time. Like, what? People, come on. Who's really watching this for that? Newsflash, Austin, quite a bit of people love that sort of thing. And that brings me back to the romantasy problem. The problem of the romantasies. Many different people's fetish or kink or sexual push is on display for everyone else to see. So if back in the day, the Ed Gein monster thing would have been put in like the LGBTQIA plus category of like, hey, this is the queer stories category. And you would have known what you were going in and watching it. And you would have known who this is for audience-wise. What I think many people get frustrated with is when you go into true crime or whatever and you watch this, and then all of a sudden it's this big bait and switch where it's now just entirely this character's fantasy land. Well, how does that make me feel about what I just watched, where you're trying to tell me that that's like some sort of true version of events? And that's not true. And then it just makes me lose faith in the people that are telling the story, because they couldn't even tell me the story that they wanted to tell. They had to shoehorn it into another story because they didn't think that I would watch it otherwise. That's not your problem. That's not my problem either. You need to understand genre. Genre it's there because we need to know the rules and the definitions, because we need to know what we're going in and watching, especially if we're spending a bunch of time on it. Especially if we've
like many places, kind of lost friends through the way, and we still keep up with them through social media and who's on whose Instagram story, and did you like my TikTok? Did you like my TikTok? Newsflash, they probably didn't. They probably didn't watch it. They just saw it was yours, and they just clicked the hearts and then scrolled on. And if they didn't, well, they might actually be a friend, and you should reach out to them. Now, here is the second part of the rub. This fantasy is not a one-sided female fantasy, this monstrous character creature that is tamed by the feminine wiles of someone else. And go back to the Ed Gein, one thing that was interesting was the other trans character, the actor, I'm blanking on the person's name, that when they were speaking, that would have been interesting if it was enclosed by itself and I knew I was watching some sort of a sick fantasy, a killer's fantasy, and the coming of self, you could say, that story was. That could be an interesting thing. But when you shoehorn it and you go, this is what you're watching and it's not what you thought you were watching, it's this. It's like, I just feel like you wasted my time. And I feel like you weren't creative enough or capable enough at writing your own story that would be interesting enough to people to pitch it. But then we get into a big problem with Hollywood as a whole. And let's face it, Hollywood as a whole does not want original ideas. They want an idea that will get people into it. So if you can create something that goes, hey, we know a bunch of people have watched The Witcher or read the book or played the video game. Great, we're going to give them a Witcher TV show that does not involve The Witcher at a certain point and actively makes you, if you did like the Witcher character, feel like an idiot for wasting your time watching the show because the people who did this show don't like you and they don't respect you. And many of these people are also behind your back going, oh, men are the problem, men are the problem. Well, men are your audience. What are you talking about? Maybe keep your comments to yourself. Say them to your friends behind closed doors. Leave it off your Twitter because we all know how that goes. And recognize that you are not making plays for people that go see plays, which I'd argue would be an incredibly liberal, pro-progressive, all these things audience. You are making stuff for Americans, which Americans are mostly right. And if you think they aren't, go look at European politics and ask, as a Democrat in America, ask some Europeans about your views, and you will find out that you're actually also right of center. There you go. It's very fun how that works. So many of these American Democrats don't realize that in other countries that are like socialist places, you're Republican. You are conservative in many aspects. But whatever, that's a whole nother ding for another dong. Now, so we get back to the romantasy problem. So here's the thing. And it is not, their fantasy when it comes from the female perspective is not dissimilar from men fantasizing about a Playboy model, porn star / Bond villain girl type thing. Where, yeah, it might be a rattlesnake essentially, but it's a real pretty rattlesnake. It is, she's a killer. She's an assassin. But for you, you're just enough of a dopey guy that she's like, oh, sweetie. Like, haha. Or that, you might hook up with that porn star or that Playboy model and they don't have a ton of daddy issues that are going to destroy your life. I've dated some of those people, and let me tell you, the heart hurts. I mean, my heart still might be broken from some woman many years ago that was doing some of this stuff. Because let's face it, it's a fantasy for a reason. Because when you try and pursue it in reality, most of us get hurt. That's what I think is very funny with all these OnlyFans models or porn stars that are like, oh, why won't anyone date me? Why won't anyone be my husband? It's like, girl, because they heard stories that I told them about my experience with people like you, and they are afraid. They are scared.
reasonably so, because it did not work out well for me. It was pretty fucking rough and bad for me. That was one of the worst breakups I ever had. Not because it was mostly the place I was in, but it was just sort of like, hey, you're in a real depressed place. Good luck. And then I see her on the boats and doing all the things, and it's like, I know what you're doing. You're telling me about this producer that you were talking to, and that, oh, you have a friend that was a screenwriter. I don't know why I didn't bring you up. It's because you couldn't. Yeah, because what are you supposed to do? So I have a friend that I used to hook up with. I actually dated him for a little bit. I thought we were in love when we were going to get married. But he's a screenwriter, and I just thought you might want to read a script. No. Come on. There is a fantasy for a reason. And ladies, I don't blame you for not wanting to milk the minotaurs. It looks real weird and scary. But reading it in a book might be titillating. Nothing against it. Truly, nothing against it. I don't understand making these killers hot. I get that there's always been that. And I part of me in the pitch room, you're sitting there and you're just like, you got to ask the question, who is this for? Who is this show for? Who is this sexy serial killer show for? It's for women that used to write serial killers and murderers in prison. That's who it's for. That's who's really paying attention to it, who's really looking at Charlie Hunnam and the brassiere and going, jaw on the floor. It's those girls. It's for them. It's all for them. And a bunch of people, men, women, probably few in between that are fluid and non-binary and things. Good for you. You like it. I don't. And hey, there's a reason why that should be a fantasy for a reason. Don't invite killers and serial killers and murderers into your home, especially not into your bed. Take it from your friendly neighborhood cult leader. Don't invite serial killers into your home and into your bed, especially when you know they've murdered people before. Like, this is mother. Hello, mother. Yes. I'm telling them not to do the serial killers. Are they listening? No, of course they're not listening, because they like the danger, because so many of us in this modern hellscape of offices and traffic lights and cell phone cameras are losing our capacity to feel alive. And I think many of us feel it, and that's why so many people are freaking out over fucking politics, is because the only time they feel alive, the only time they feel alive is when they're screaming into the street, no kings, no kings, no kings, sponsored by the heir to the Walmart family and a bunch of other billionaires and multimillionaires. You gotta be fucking kidding me. But the feeling of change, and that I am going after my right as a man, as a woman, as anything in between, as part of this community with the rainbow flags and the many things. Or I'm on the other side. I'm a Christian nationalist, and I want my values to be exercised upon people with my boot on their neck. It's because they don't feel alive. They need something to give them a charge, a kick in the teeth. And frankly, everything nowadays is so sanitized that they have to get that through porn, getting the kicks, gooning, romantasy stuff. All these women that are like, I don't feel alive in my life, and I kind of want to keep it that way. Hey, great, good, look, you got a comfortable life. I'm happy for you. Here's the thing. Human life society, there's many comfortable things in there. And it might stay comfortable for you for the rest of your life. And I hope that for you. Here's the problem. And I can say this as a guy that's been kicked in the teeth a couple times by life. Sometimes life is real hard and real bad. And you just got to white knuckle things and hang on and survive. And that's when you really feel alive. I'll tell you what. Working in real estate and all these things. And recently it's just like, God, I don't feel alive. I felt more alive when I was dog walking, doing DoorDash, and writing till 3 a.m. That was before the Writers Guild strike, and I still had some hope that Hollywood would figure out how to get its head out of its ass, make some tough decisions for a few years, 5 years
of just good, tough decisions of, hey, maybe we have to bring some of these annoying, cantankerous people that are going to fight with us and die on hills over art. Maybe we need to bring these people back into the film fold. Cute. I'm pretty sure part of the reason I didn't make it in that world is because many people looked at me and talked with me and found, yeah, I can't control that son of a bitch. Good. That was the point. That was the whole point. That was the whole point, was that I will fight and die for the things I believe in. And you saw that and went, no, it's too volatile. God. Okay, so have fun. How did it work out for y'all? Hiring a bunch of writers that only have life experience from the things that they have watched or read or played in a video game. Has that been working out for y'all? I mean, go Google millennial writing. Y'all fuck the pot yourself. And that brings me to the Millie Bobby Brown versus David Harbour. And I'm only saying this because I think this is a good not litmus test, snapshot into film and what it is for most people, at least in the industry now. So you have a previous incidence of verbal abuse potentially perpetrated by Matt and Ross Duffer against, quote, several female employees, which was reported and then to Netflix. Netflix, the streaming giant which investigated, claimed, quote, that they found no wrongdoing. So when I read that, especially film, if you're shooting on film, or if you're shooting anything on location, aka not on a soundstage, where you have the ability to control the lights, control the weather, you can control everything on a soundstage. When you are out in the world, there is a term called we're burning daylight. That means we are wasting time and moments that we will not get back and that we have to execute right now. Right now. We got to get this shot. We got to get this done. And that can create some very tense situations on film sets that are honestly part of why I wanted to get in there. Because I thought the tense situations might make me feel alive without going to war or becoming a UFC fighter or something. I got too many head injuries to be getting into a cage with another man and expect to not have debilitating CTE by the time I'm 45. I mean, shit, I developed a stutter after a traumatic brain injury when I was 24. You telling me I don't want to have that shit back and ruining the rest of my 50s and 60s? Come on. So I thought film. Hey, maybe I get my kicks there. Maybe whatever. Oh, it's a tense and people call each other fuckers and people say that you're a loser because you're not doing your job correctly. I kind of wanted that because I'd been called a loser for not doing things correctly my whole life. I thought, hey, at least I can get into a situation where because of my thicker skin from all this bullshit that I've endured and the bullying in the age of physical non-confrontation. Wow, talk about gaslighting. I was basically just gaslit for years. So many people were. So many dudes, especially if you wonder why some guys just kind of shut down. That's part of it. It's because we were told to shut down anytime we were getting made fun of, anytime we were getting bullied. You just shut down and move on. Just shut down and move on. Oh, come on. Because what? You react, boom, you're in trouble too now. You might be in more trouble because you reacted. Because it's not about who starts things. It's about who gets caught doing it. Looking at you, Epstein. Speaking of verbal abuse, we'll be right back after these messages. And we're back from these scheduled messages. There's no sponsors for the pod. We're not there yet. And by we, I mean me. 'Cause it's hard to find good help in Orange County for your silly internet videos. Sad, sad, sad. Welcome back. So, that said, Millie Bobby Brown. So she was on that same set with Matt and Ross Duffer. And
what I did find interesting when I read the article on Yahoo is that you can click at the bottom of the page to find stories with other men, quote, accused of toxic manipulative behavior. I like that, that we've just decided what is that and what isn't. And everyone has a good, clear, and concise understanding of that, because as someone who has been manipulated a few times, qu'est-ce que c'est? Anyways, so here's the thing. Those film sets, it's a very tense environment, and people say things to each other thinking, hey, we're a bunch of adults, and I might make a kind of shitty joke. Here is the problem. On the other side of that, there are a lot of men and women who say pretty shitty, sleazy things, thinking, hey, if I just say, well, I'm just joking afterwards, it's like, no, it's not a joke. You just said what you feel, and you hope that by saying, oh, it's just a joke, that people will give you some magical hall pass that, oh, it was just a joke. Here's the thing. If it is a joke, it's got to be funny. If it's not funny, you're just admitting and telling on yourself what's going on. Right? Right? I mean, hell. Jokes have to have good truth. Yes. You need the truth in the joke to really make it resonate with people. However, many people can just say a thing that they think is true, and then when you get kind of frustrated, they're like, relax, I was just making a joke or being sarcastic. It's like, okay, this is really frustrating and annoying. And I will say that David Harbour guy does seem like that kind of man. He does seem like the sort of dude that will be like, say a shitty thing at you, and then you get kind of like pissy about it because you're like, dude, what the fuck? There's no artistry. That's not funny. Like, you're just being a dick. And then he turns back and goes, oh, I'm just joking. You know how I know? I've met plenty of guys like that. They exist. They're real. To Millie Bobby Brown's credit. Now, here's the thing. Whenever you are someone like Millie Bobby Brown, and you have made a bunch of money and success and power, and you've kind of been welcomed into this world of, you are one of the red heifers of Hollywood, where you essentially groomed to be an adult star from a child star. And that, people like, say, David Harbour, who multiple times expressed some feeling of essentially protectiveness over his young co-star, and that his feelings were kind of paternal. Like, hey, and as a 34-year-old guy, if I was on a film set with a 12-year-old girl, like, I'm gonna have a protective view towards that. And once upon a time, when I did used to work on sets, I would occasionally end up being set mom, because the set mom, aka the usually woman hired to watch the children, wasn't watching the children, and in fact was not paying attention to the children at all. Which on a film set, I was like, hey, why don't I take them to this very little public area right here and I teach them how to juggle? Because that way the kids, we all got eyes on them. They're not getting pulled off into some weird room, because everyone hears those stories. Protect the children. And I love to see that across America, that's a thing that is cutting past a lot of propaganda being forced down our throats, a lot of disinformation from both within and without our country, is like 80% of Americans just being like, yeah, protect the children. What? Why is this even an argument? Why is this even a thing? Well, how do you wish to protect them? That's when the fight happens. How that we want to protect the children. Yes. Most Americans can agree. Now, no. How do we protect the children? At arms. At throats. Cutting and slitting. No, not that way. That way will hurt the children. No, not that way. That way won't let them accept who they are. That will hurt them more later on down the road. Honestly, what it comes down to a lot is a lot of people trying to fix the problem that happened to them when they were a child and hope that it doesn't affect other children. Here's the problem with that. In some capacities, I think that is a greater issue down the road that causes other problems. But that's a conversation that I might have to have on Patreon, where paid subscribers come to
pay to hear what I think. Instead of freewheeling this one on the internet. Fine, here we go. Here's a sample. Here's a taste of what might go on a Patreon. I think a lot of young people particularly came up in a media environment where they were told their queerness, their gayness, their lesbianness, their whatever, LGBTQIA+, would be hated. And this was a civil rights movement in 2020 that is on par with the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Here's the problem with that. It's not. Fight me in the comments. What it is a civil rights movement. It is not on par with what was happening to black people in the teens, 20s, 40s. Like, it's just not. And if you can't accept that, then people can't have a substantive conversation with you about where we are in a contemporary place. So having that said, are people still being prejudiced against or discriminated against for their gender, sex choice if it's non-standard? Sure. What one person is going to face in a state, say like Missouri, is going to be radically different than what they experience here in California. And here in California, if you're, say, in a very rural spot like, hey, Bakersfield, you're probably not going to get the same reception that someone in Los Angeles or San Francisco is going to get. Why? Because those are very progressive gay areas, and a place like Bakersfield is not known for that progressiveness. So yeah, it might be hard. It might be more difficult. It is not as difficult as it was, say, to come out in the 80s. You know how I know? Because I made friends with a lot of those older gays, and the older gays in the 2019, 2020, 2021 would come to me and be like, hey, Austin, you're my like token straight friend. What the hell are these kids thinking? Like, and especially because I seem like a more masculine dude sometimes. It's like, nah, I just learned how to sit up straight because my mom would endlessly berate me if my posture slouched, and my dad would just yoink me in the back with a finger. So I like to think I keep my back straight. It's also just I've done push-ups. I got ADHD. I can't sit and play video games without getting stir crazy, but I also can't not play the video game sometimes because I need a rest on the cognitive load. So what do? I just, every time I die, I do 10 push-ups. Yeah, big strong man. I don't know. Hey, Twitch, anyone? You want to see me do Twitch stuff? There we go. We do Twitch stuff. I just do push-ups when I die, and then ladies thirst. Please. Your boy is lonely. So that said, these elder gay men would come to me being like, what happened? What happened here? Why is everyone so effeminate and effete? What is this new thing that's happening? Why is every 22-year-old guy an elf? Like, what is this? And I just went, I don't know. And some of them would say things like, Austin, I came out of the closet in West Texas in the early 80s when it was dangerous to come out as a gay man. And I came out as a gay man because I like men. There's no men anymore. It's just a bunch of boys trying to be girls. And it's like, hey, that person will remain anonymous. I will not snitch on who said it, but I just want you to know that did come from the upper echelons of the gay age hierarchy. And I heard it from a few people. Where did all the men go? Where did all the men go? In a place like Los Angeles, where I was, the men were not welcome. And so they did not go because they were not welcome. And if you're like me and you were trying to make it in the Hollywood system, especially in this Trump era, if you were not an absolute diehard part of the liberal team, if you were, say, like me, who is... I have been told I'm a political extremist because my politics in America are let's get rid of the two-party system and let's reelect not a single person. I don't care if they were good. Don't reelect a single person. If we did that for one term, if we had one 4-year stretch where not a single incumbent got reelected, I think some problems in America would change almost immediately.
But am I going to get my way? No. And I love all the people who go, Pelosi is our champion. She is our lady Fiora. All right. She just announced retirement. Good for her after 20-something terms, 20 years, 10th term. How many millions of dollars did this woman inside trade? And people are freaking out that Barron Trump might have done the same thing. It's like, this is not a right or a left issue. Corruption is an American issue. In our politics, it's very corrupt. It just is. Welcome to the show. So the problem is like police brutality in 2020. We are seeing the eye of Sauron, that is the internet, showing us the political corruption. And people who are taking the time to go line by line to be like, this is the corruption here, this is the corruption here. Where did this millions and billions of dollars that was supposed to go help Los Angeles homeless people, where'd that money go? Oh, a bunch of it is missing, like a third of it, like 2/3 of it is missing, just missing, completely unaccounted for. And you're telling me that the Republicans have the monopoly on what? Corruption? Oh, sweet summer child. There is no monopoly on that. There's a duopoly. But really, right wing, left wing, same bird shitting on your head and calling it progress. Government. So, they just want to feel alive, the people. And they go and they rail against it with the politics and that's the thing. It's a lot of performative activism. So, men were seen as this problem, this patriarchal issue, and a lot of the Trump problems got passed down to you next to them because you were just the closest one. So that is why you have this massive sea change, essentially, where a lot of young women have now been put in these places of power in Hollywood. And a lot of them want job security. I will say this before I say anything else. One of the reasons why there is a lack of new creative projects being done is because producers wanted job security. These are most of the time, and this is not even a female sole issue whatsoever. Too many people went to film school and did the business film school and were kind of ingrained with, hey, you should have job security kind of thing. Or they saw other people in the business schools and it's like, yeah, you have job security if you go out and you work in the insurance world or if you work in the advertising, PR, whatever, accounting, at least until AI takes that away from you. What do you know? So when it comes to that, it was not, hey, let's find the person that is the best for this role. It was, hey, let's pick the nearest. And hey, look, you're gay and you want to be a producer, get on in there. You could have found gay, lesbian producers, trans producers. There's probably a black trans man somewhere in Los Angeles that is a bigger Lord of the Rings fan than I am, which is saying something. A bigger Lord of the Rings fan than I am. You could have elevated them and put them up to be a writer on the Rings of Power. You would have checked all the representational boxes, and you would have found a person, just a human, who respects Lord of the Rings, who respects Tolkien and the story that he told, and understands that, yes, there are going to be outdated, antiquated elements to this story because it was written by a man who fought in World War I. I mean, that's the thing I told some Marvel producers and some other people in the industry. It's like, hey, until you get writers that know what it means to be punched in the face by another human in anger, they will always miss something when it comes to writing action and action heroes. That's just a fact. And I'm not even some big crazy badass that's getting punched in the face all the time. It's been a minute since I've been hit in the head. Yeah, I got a traumatic brain injury. That was the last time I got hit in the head. So I know a thing or two about getting hit in the head. And let me tell you what, when you get hit in the face or in the head, your view on the shit that comes out of your mouth changes. Because consequences that have everything to do with the law of the jungle and nothing to do with the law of concrete and civilization are all of a sudden meeting you in the face, and you realize that you might have written a check that your ass cannot cash. Antiquated reference, but yes, therein lies the rub. No, I'm a nerdy writer guy that has been punched in the face. Well, partly because I've said some shit, but I mean, that time I was just an easy target. And I met the guy years later. He told me I was an easy target. That's fine. I was blackout drunk. Only the second time I've ever been blacked out drunk. Boom. Wake up in downtown Central lockup. Oh, vomiting into a prison toilet. Some guy handing me the orange juice from the container. It's like, that was bad. It was bad. You learn things about life in those moments. You just do. And it's not always good things you learn about life. You just learn about life. And here's the thing. A lot of people have had those moments, but a lot of people in the Hollywood production system have not. They have not. So when I see Millie Bobby Brown pulling this stunt where she had to report David Harbour to Netflix, I'm also remembering all the experiences I had with mostly women who had incredibly privileged lives. Incredibly privileged lives. But because they are a woman, and because they are bisexual or a lesbian or some form of queer, now all of a sudden they're a protected minority class. And they act like it. And they make you feel like a patriarchal majority douche. Which, hey, whatever. That's your prerogative. That's what you can call me. You're welcome to do that. Yet, however, they entered into a very like rough and gruff kind of sharp elbows situation. And I don't know if this is like a Gen Z thing of we're not putting up with your toxic workplace behavior. It's like, yeah, but you're also causing a lot more problems than you think you are solving right in this moment. You actually are. And, you know, should you be bullied or berated? No. But should you develop a thick skin because that's what you need to do? And frankly, you wouldn't be able to do this if you yourself weren't a protected class? I don't have the answer for that. I just noticed it quite a lot. That a lot of people were yelling at others going, you're the patriarchy, you're the whatever, all your privilege. And it's like, you got elevated to that job because you were the closest person to the people picking the job. And you want to tell me that I'm the only one here with privilege. That is silly. That is silly. Because here's the thing. Those internships in the early part of the producer's like lifespan, very difficult jobs to do if you don't have families supporting you. Because you're doing an internship that is a large internship, or you're working as an assistant and you are making no money in one of the most expensive cities to live in the United States. So these are all college educated people with families that supported them. And a lot of them, I got to be honest, kind of get hall passes on accountability when it comes to some things. I know that as a man with mental health acronyms to my thing. We will get there one of these days. But I do know, as a man with some mental health issues, oh my God, I have watched crazy women get some seriously fun hall passes to a point where I'm like, hey, good for you. Like, good for you. You think I might be bad? No, I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I wish I could get away with acting half the crazy y'all get up to. If I did that, I'd go to jail. Like, actually, I'd go to jail. This isn't even like a thing. Like, I'd be in prison. Like, they would look at me and go, oh, you are a danger. You get locked up. Prison. That in itself is a form of privilege. I'm not here to debate that. I just thought you should know. You should know. Hey. Anyways, who wants to moralize and arbitrage and communitize? And yeah. So anyways, there is an over-moralization of Hollywood in general, period. And that is one reason why I think we will be seeing a complete divestiture of right-wing sources from Hollywood, like now. If it hasn't massively divested and moved its money elsewhere recently, then it will. And why is that? It's because the left has doubled down completely on we control and we run Hollywood while letting the business completely dissolve. And I mean, personally, I was told, we're not making this because you're like a straight white male. Like, it's just not your time. Gavin Newsom recently signed a thing saying that Armenians are not white. So I was told that I'm too white for Hollywood by people who are whiter than I am on a blood level. What? What? I love that. I just think it's fucking hilarious. It's so funny to me that I had people who are actually whiter than me telling me that I was too white for Hollywood. That's a funny way to say your business is dying and you will never work with people who have original ideas. You know, would have been nice to hear that. But that wasn't my privilege. Anyways, so the yassification of killers, I have just rambled. Anyways, at the end of the day, all of this is so people can feel alive and that their life has some sort of purpose, that it matters in a way that will concretely affect their industry, their lives, their politics, their country, their community. Most of these people wouldn't pee on you if you were on fire if you disagree with them. You know how I know? Because I've been in situations that were life and death for someone else. Long story about a man getting his leg axed with a chainsaw that he was cutting a tree down. And I was one of 3 people out of like 15, 20 that actually did something to try and save this man's life. And I watched 15-something people just stand around and leave as they saw like, oh, you know, this is getting solved. Someone's doing something. Yeah, I grabbed a belt and I used it to tourniquet his leg. It was a very improper solution to a very devastating accident. And what you learn is a lot of people, they have to pretend. They have to. Because they know who they are deep down. And they know that they have to pick these super safe avenues to express their opinion because they are too afraid to actually do something about it. A lot of people fantasize about saving a life or doing something to help someone that's in dire straits. I'm not a first responder. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a EMT. I'm not a fireman. I have, however, jumped in when I needed to, when someone else needed me to. And you know what I learned in that moment, in those moments? That a lot of people are all talk. But when it really comes down to it, that's all they are. It's all talk. Welcome to the far side. Hugs and kisses. Big love. Like, share, comment, subscribe. All those things. And, be kind to yourself because you never know what other people are going to do to you.